So based on these principles, I revised my 112 class. It's a 4-unit upper division junior class. Students take it the first semester in the fall semester of their junior year, and together with 2 other classes, it's usually their first major exposure to aerospace engineering. The class introduces the concepts of statics and strength of material combined together, and it's therefore a pretty fast-paced class, and each topic builds on each other. In the past, we have seen some high failing rates and equity gaps that actually vary from year to year. In addition to the 4-unit class, we offer the student the option to take an extra 1-unit workshop that up to this year has been voluntary, and we have not been able to implement it this semester because of lack of enrollment. What happens is that usually students realize that they need extra support around week 6 of the semester, and so we usually don't have enough enrollment at the beginning of the semester. So we're now preparing some updates to the requirements for taking the workshop to try to funnel a group of students into taking the workshop from the beginning of the semester. So this slide presents how I traditionally teach my class. This was the scheme I used in fall 2019. I like weekly quizzes for my undergraduate classes, especially the junior level classes, because it forces students to practice every week. And the quizzes were given usually on Wednesday, and they were 15% of the grade. Unless there was another assessment, like a midterms or a final exam, every week students had to take a quiz based on the topics that were covered that week. In addition to the weekly quizzes that consisted of 15% of the grade, we had 2 midterms, each 15% worth, a final exam during final exam week, and then we had homeworks, labs, 3 lab experiences. I also had service learning, and those accounted in total for about 35% of the grade. The homework was a very small percentage of this 35% because we have all the solution manuals available online, and we have noticed that half of the time students just use the solution manual to submit their homework. And so we wanted to give to offer the students the possibility to practice because it's really needed, but we also didn't want to give too much of an emphasis on the grade itself. And the quizzes were usually the assessment that made sure that students were actually working on the homework. Shilpa, you have a question?
Yes, I'm not familiar with the term service learning. Could you tell a little bit about that?
Sure. Service learning is a form of community learning in which we take students to basically doing outreach activities in the community. And specifically for this class, I organized some hands-on activities with my students in 112, and then we did a type of science fair into after-school programs in San Jose. And the total grade for the class was determined by the weighted average of the different contributions. I started being exposed to mastery learning from Nicole during fall 2019. And so I decided to implement some concepts of mastery learning and specification grading the following year. So instead of having 12 weekly quizzes, I divided my course learning objectives in 10 main topics, and each quiz corresponded to each topic. And I did not allow students to progress from one quiz to the following one unless they had passed all the prerequisites. The reason for that is that this class has many topics that build on each other, and so students are really not able to solve, let's say, quiz 5 if they have not really mastered the topics of quiz 1, 2, 3, and 4. And quizzes were the largest part of the grade because I had eliminated the midterm. So they consisted of 50% of the grade, and they had a pass or fail grading scheme. So the way we graded the quizzes is that if student had more than 2 major mistakes, the quiz was not passed, and then they were offered the option to retakes, and there were no partial credit. At the end of the semester, we still used the weighted average of the different contributions to determine the final grade. And we kept the final exam, the homework, and we moved the labs to a research paper because we were fully online, and we also were not able to implement service learning. So this was the first round of redesign for my 1-12 class.